Has anyone been paying attention to the Britt Andrews situation with this Kickstarter and scamming her readers out of $90,000?
I'm sorry, what do you mean? An indie author has had $95,000 worth of readers' money locked up in a Kickstarter from August of 2023.
Raised $90,000 shortly after, opens a restaurant. Not suspicious, but where'd you get that money?
What do you mean the book still has not been written? No one has received anything. No one has received refunds, even though said refunds have been requested for months.
So I thought I would do a quick video to give everybody an update on Demons in My Head, because I know a lot of you have been looking for it or wondering what happened.
My fellow authors, you're supposed to be my people. Why do so many fellow authors keep letting me down like this? Why?
Get you some nuts.
Yeah, you effing.
Up yours, woke moralist. We'll see who cancels who.
Hey everyone, I'm Savvy, and welcome back to Savvy Writes Books. On this channel, I post book reviews, video essays, and other forms of media analysis. And today, right after last week's video about the absolute failure and scamitude of the A Million Lives Book Festival in Baltimore, we've got another similar story, all about an author who took nearly $100,000 from her fans and then never delivered on the promised books, and I have a lot of thoughts about this. But first, please don't forget to subscribe and ring my notification bell. I also want to give a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters whose names are up on the screen. Top tier patrons have their own links in my description below, so don't forget to check them out as well. And if you want access to things like behind the scenes blog posts, occasionally bonus videos and live streams, sneak previews of upcoming books I'm writing, and more, then please consider subscribing to my Patreon, linked below. Now, let's talk about this week's new book community scandal. Meet Britt Andrews. She's an extremely successful independent paranormal romance author. Her Amazon page shows 20 books to her name, many of which have thousands of reviews and more than a 4-star average from customer ratings. Britt Andrews has a lot of fans. One of her most successful books of all time is a novel called Demons in My Bed, which has more than 3,000 reviews on Amazon and more than 4,500 reviews on Goodreads, and maintains about a 4.5-star average on both platforms. That is really impressive. It is not easy to build up a fan base that large, especially as an independent author, and I would know because I'm an independent author myself. I'm an independent author with over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, and my books do not come anywhere near approaching the widespread reach of Britt Andrews. This woman is successful. On the Amazon page for Demons in My Bed, you may also notice that it's listed as book 1 of 2 in a duology called Demons of Port Black, which means there's a sequel coming. Right? That's what it means, right? To launch this sequel, Britt used a platform that I, as a fellow indie author and entrepreneur myself, know very well: Kickstarter. Like I've said before in other videos, I think Kickstarter is a fantastic platform for indie authors to take pre-orders, to connect with their readers, and to even expand the production quality of their books and their associated products. In the one girl boss style nonfiction self-help book I've written, Savvy Business Owner, I even devote an entire chapter to how small authors and small business owners can use crowdfunding websites to their advantage. The risk that comes with Kickstarter is that it technically classifies itself as a crowdfunding platform rather than a pre-order platform, and that means that if you pay to back a project and the creator never delivers on the product that they said they were going to give you, well, Kickstarter is not legally responsible for that. Everyone who backs a Kickstarter project does so knowing the risk that the product they paid for may never arrive and may never even come into existence, and they will have no legal recourse if that is the case. This was a regular issue we'd often see in the world of video game Kickstarters. While Kickstarters for video games were pretty big back in the 2010s, it feels, at least to me, like that community has largely died off, in part due to how many wannabe game developers would launch campaigns with no real concept of just how much money their elaborate game idea was going to need, then running out of their budget long before the project was finished, thereby disappointing tons of customers. As a result, nobody really trusts video game Kickstarters anymore. And I really don't want something like that to happen to the book Kickstarter community, which is in part why this situation makes me so angry. So yes, Kickstarter's policies technically do not require that the creator deliver on their promises, or at the very least, they won't face any legal penalty should they take your money and run. Still, most people are trustworthy. Most people aren't scammers. Most people back projects by creators they trust, especially projects that show a well thought out plan for production and distribution. And just because it's legal to do something doesn't mean it isn't going to piss off your audience, Britt. Just because you can do something with no official consequences from the government doesn't mean you won't face the consequences of losing your readers. When I first launched my small business Forever Home Friends back in 2017, I started with a $7,000 Kickstarter campaign to raise the initial funds to hire my first 2 illustrators, print my first run of books, and buy the materials to make the first round of plushies. And then, after my campaign was successful, my backers received their rewards within the calendar year of 2017. When I decided to expand our plushie offerings, I ran a second Kickstarter in 2019 to raise an additional $3,500. Backers received their plushies within the calendar year of 2019. I preface all of this with my personal experiences as a way to emphasize how disappointed I am in Britt Andrews for giving fellow indie authors like me and fellow Kickstarter users like me a bad name. I will never claim that in either of my Kickstarters or in any of my dozens of book releases that I've made no mistakes or that I've done everything right. But I will say that Britt is an example of what happens when you do everything wrong. Allegedly, Britt Andrews may have potentially scammed her most loyal readers out of $100,000. Because we can't have a single week without book community drama, can we? On August 28th, 2023, Britt Andrews launched a Kickstarter page called Demons of Port Black. At the top of the page, it advertises the complete duet by Britt Andrews in a special edition hardcover, exclusive to this campaign. Exclusive to this campaign, of course, means that Britt is not planning to release the special edition of the full duology anywhere else. Readers could still expect to purchase both books individually on Amazon and potentially through Britt's website, but if they wanted this special edition of a special fancy book, a hardcover that includes both pieces of the story in one place, they would have to pre-order it through her Kickstarter campaign. Since Kickstarter campaigns are time sensitive, readers would have to pledge before the end of September 2023 if they hope to secure this special edition of the book. Here's how Britt describes it in her Kickstarter campaign copy. In April 2022, Demons in My Head released on Amazon. Since then, over 50,000 copies have been devoured by readers. The wait for the second and final book in the duet has been a long time coming. To celebrate the end of Palmer and the exiled story, I wanted to offer something exciting, especially for all of those 50,000 readers who have been so patient with me as I finish writing the second book. I'm convinced my fans are the absolute greatest and that I'm incredibly lucky to have each and every one of them in my corner. I've never offered any of my work in hardback, so this really is an exciting campaign. These exclusive editions are going to be absolutely beautiful with exclusive chapter headings and beautiful interior formatting. Each book will be numbered and signed by me. Not only that, the signed and numbered page will be stamped with a seal that will have an exclusive design only available during this campaign. This Kickstarter will be the one and only place to get your hands on this cover. We're doing one print run and that's it. Gone forever. So let's make it worth it. As with everything else in my career, I can't do this without you. All right, we are all readers here, so I'll tell you what I comprehended from reading this, and then you can tell me in the comments below if that's what you gathered from it as well. I gathered, first of all, that the second book in the duology isn't ready to print just yet, but it's very close. After all, she specifically calls out those 50,000 readers who have been so patient with her as she finishes writing the second book. In order for people to have been patient with her while she finishes writing the book, she must have spent time working on the process of finishing the book already, meaning the book is already in progress. Maybe she's still finishing it, but the process of finishing it has at least begun. Second, I've gathered that this is the one and only place you can get the special edition, so if you don't pledge to the Kickstarter, you'll miss out. An incentive to get customers acting sooner rather than later, that's very common in Kickstarter circles. And third, I've gathered that these special editions will include a bunch of features not available anywhere else, including each copy being signed, an exclusive cover, hardcover binding, special formatting, and special artwork that's not available in the other books. Great, this sounds like a really cool project. And we know that this book really was targeted at her most hardcore devoted fans because it's not cheap. Let's take a look at the pricing of her Kickstarter rewards. While there are smaller tiers where you can pledge to get the ebook, if you want this special edition, the exclusive signed hardcover with the special artwork and special formatting, the cheapest you'd be able to get it for would be $80. Yeah, $80. Now, we can imagine that this book is the equivalent of 2 books since both books 1 and 2 are included in this special edition, and we know that hardcovers nowadays can cost up to $30 for new releases at the bookstore. Inflation's a hell of a drug, okay? And sure, we can rationalize that by saying, okay, 2 hardcover books might run you $60 to $70 at a bookstore, and while this is one book, it's going to be like 800 pages long because it's 2 fairly long novels combined. Printing isn't cheap, and we can give an independent author some leeway with the pricing. At least I personally can, because I know how expensive small quantity print runs can be from running Forever Home Friends. $80 is pretty outrageously expensive just for one book, but my point is, in itself, it's not necessarily that damning. It's a price that 217 backers were willing to pay, plus hundreds of backers who paid for even more expensive reward benefits. My point is, there's a universe where the math checks out in my head. At the same time, though, it isn't cheap, and when hundreds of people are trusting you with that quantity of money, especially in this economy, you have to treat that opportunity responsibly. Now, on the backer rewards page, you may notice that the estimated delivery date is June 2024, and that makes sense. The campaign finished in the fall of 2023. Britt left herself roughly 6 to 9 months to finish the book, get the special formatting done, wait for the proofs to come in the mail, make any needed changes with the printer, and wait for the full run of books to arrive so that she could package them up and send them out to customers. The time frame feels pretty reasonable to me. And the readers really came through on this campaign. As the Kickstarter page shows, 768 total people pledged to the Kickstarter, bringing in $95,747. So what's the big deal? The big deal is that if you're living here with me right now at the end of May 2025, the estimated delivery time of June 2024 has already long come and gone. In fact, it passed nearly a year ago. Luckily, one of the main features of Kickstarter is that creators can leave updates for their backers. So let's take a look at the journey that Britt has gone on while raising nearly 6 figures from her audience. While the campaign was still active, less than a week into the campaign's run, at the start of September 2023, Britt posted an update called "Sprayed Edges Are Happening, This Is Not a Drill." She writes, "The past 4.5 days have been nothing short of mind-blowing. I'm beyond honored that so many of you, over 500, have backed this campaign. You guys really wanted those sprayed edges, and I cannot wait to deliver on that." Now, our next stretch goal is fun and cute. You can show your support for the series and this Kickstarter by unlocking a custom enamel pin. The amazing Danielle designed this beauty, and she did such an amazing job. Thank you, Danielle. These won't ever be available again, so let's do this. I have so many more little goodies to be unlocked. Britt included a picture of the enamel pin design, so now in addition to what were already promised, backers are also being promised sprayed edges as another special feature of the book, and though the Kickstarter has already passed its funding goal in that first week, Britt was still creating more stretch goals, more incentives for people to continue pledging even more money and pre-ordering more books. Just 2 days later, on September 3rd, Britt posted again to let backers know that the campaign had made so much more money that the enamel pins were now a guarantee. She then created another stretch goal to include vellum overlays within the books. So there's a pattern here. Britt keeps receiving more orders, then promising more and more features to be included with the books, prompting even more people to pledge even more money, now believing that these books are going to contain even more special exclusive features. Less than a week later, on September 9th, 2023, Britt posted another update, now promising even more to her backers, but this time the new rewards wouldn't come just from her. She was going to partner with another small business. If you haven't heard of the Brightside candles, you're missing out. I'm teaming up with them to bring you an exclusive Demons of Port Black candle, and the best part of it is that by ordering one, you're not only supporting me, but you'd also be supporting another small, woman-owned bookish business. These candles were an add-on, meaning that they wouldn't be included in the backer's original pledge, but would cost extra. Specifically, Britt was offering the exclusive candle for an additional $35 pledge. And this wasn't the only add-on she was offering. Britt then began promising backers a ton more merch to go with this book, of course, available for an additional fee. These add-ons included for $30 a 20-ounce tumbler themed after the book, and for $40 figurines of the characters. Now Britt is getting into the toy business. From my experience, let me tell you, the toy business is not something you just go into lightly, but okay. Regardless, people were paying for these rewards. After all, Britt had written 20 books and her audience already loved her, and they had no reason not to trust that she'd deliver. Britt posted periodic updates, many of which were exclusive to her backers in the following months. But months went by and there didn't seem to be much progress regarding the printing and distribution of the actual book that this campaign was meant to bring to life in the first place. Then, on May 15th, 2024, just about 1 month before her original projected release date for the book, Britt posted a long overdue update. Hi everyone. Firstly, I need to apologize for not updating as frequently as I should be. It's not an excuse, but I've been going through some pretty serious personal life changes that have affected my mental health more than I expected. All I can do is ask for your patience and understanding as I navigate through this change. The ability to write is a gift, not just to craft a story, build worlds, create characters, but to actually be able to sit down and put the words on paper. When your reality gets rocked, it can be extremely difficult to get into that headspace to create the product at a standard you all deserve. I'm working through my situation so I can get back to the old Britt, the one who could powerhouse books out without the process feeling so overwhelming. I know in my mind where this story is going to go. I know what I need to do to get to the finish line, and I will get there. The first step is getting the book finished. That's all I'm going to focus on right now. Nothing else can happen until that first step is completed. I feel the pressure. I owe it to not only myself to dust myself off and get moving, but to each one of you. Once I get some words down, I'll be able to start posting updates on where I'm at with my word count and the progression of the storyline to provide you with a better timeline on fulfillment. The comments on this post were overwhelmingly supportive. As Britt mentioned in her other post, she was going through some difficult times in her personal life, including mourning the death of a relative, and that is not easy. Most readers view the authors they like as real people. Most readers have empathy for the people whose content they're consuming, and a lot of people are willing to extend some grace when that author needs to delay a book release due to personal circumstances. And hey, sometimes production delays can happen. I've been there. As long as you continue communicating clearly with your audience, everything should be okay. That said, this update did include a couple red flags. Phrasing like, I know in my mind where the story is going to go. Where it's going to go? At this point, it had been a full year since she launched the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter which, in its original description, thanked her audience for their patience while she was finishing writing the second book, meaning that it should have already been close to finished almost a year ago. Sure, delays are going to happen, especially when personal circumstances out of your control get in the way, but this update made it sound like Britt was still taking the story in new directions. Why would she say where the story is going to go? This should have been a matter of finally finishing the book, not figuring out where it's going to go, which is normally something that happens during the outlining stage. And I know not all writers do outlines, but figuring out where a story's going to go is something that you think of happening towards the beginning of the writing process rather than when you've been finishing up the end of the book for the past 9 months. Still, Britt's audience stayed supportive and they gave her the benefit of the doubt. 3 months later, on August 18th, 2024, now 2 months after the originally projected release date, Britt posted again on Kickstarter. The title of this post, just like the last one, was a long overdue update. I know that I have not been the best or even close to satisfactory in posting updates for you. That is my own failing, and for that, I do apologize. I never meant to cause doubt or concern or seem ungrateful to any of my backers. I realized recently that some backers didn't realize at the time this project launched that they were backing an unfinished book. I cannot fulfill anything until the second book is written. Unfortunately, I did estimate it to be done in time to fulfill this project sometime this summer, but that has not happened. It's not that I don't want to write the book. I want that more than anything, and I want it to be worthy of the support I've gained over the years since the first book was published. Now here's what's been going on in my life, and these are not excuses, they just are. Last December, I purchased a restaurant with my cousin. My beloved best friend and assistant, Kayla, has taken over management of the restaurant and has stepped away from the role of my business manager. I do still have an assistant, Robin, but things have been very hectic with this venture. Again, I'm not telling you this to excuse my absence and posting updates. I just want you all to know I'm not sitting around on my couch watching your questions roll in and avidly ignoring them. I wish I could just say that I'm so swamped with the restaurant that I haven't had time to write, but that would be a lie. The reason I'm having, and have been having for a long time, a creative block is because I'm going through a very hard marital situation. Changing my life after 17 years with someone has taken a huge toll on my mental health, my confidence, my ability to create, my desire to socialize, basically everything. This is the first I have spoken about the truth of my life because unfortunately I feel I have to at this point. All I've ever wanted to do was write stories, to create worlds that anybody and everybody can get lost in, worlds where women find themselves and value their own self-worth. I suppose it makes sense that given my circumstances, I'm having some trouble with that right now. My kids, 4th grade, 2nd grade, and kindergarten, go back to school this week, which will free up more of my time to dedicate to finding my voice again and the passion I have for writing. I'm trying my best. Every day when I drag myself out of bed, I try my very best. I promise you that, and I won't quit. Once again, Britt's audience was supportive. Every comment I saw on this post included readers saying some variation of, take care of yourself, or we'll be patient, we all go through unexpected struggles in life, we can wait. And just like in the other post, there were a few red flags, even if they weren't yet big enough to cause the audience to turn on Britt. First, Britt mentions that she didn't realize backers didn't know the book wasn't finished. Well, Britt, to be fair, your original Kickstarter page said it was for your readers for being so patient with you while you finished the second book. So yeah, it was implied that while the book wasn't fully finished, that you were like already in the process of finishing it up, and that the Kickstarter money was really only needed to produce the special editions and produce the exclusive merch. Next, you bought a restaurant? You bought a restaurant? Now, I've never done anything close to running a restaurant. The closest I've come is watching a lot of kitchen nightmares and writing a really silly romance novella about chefs falling in love in a kitchen nightmare style situation. But from those things alone, I have the impression that running a restaurant is really hard work, really expensive to do, extremely risky as a business venture, and extremely time consuming. Why the fuck did you open a restaurant while you still owe products to people who paid for them? Where did you get the money to start a restaurant? It wasn't from the $95,000 that people paid you for books, was it? Well, the audience was still willing to be patient with Britt. People remained excited for the books to arrive whenever that time came. Then, 6 more months passed. Britt posted a few backer exclusive updates, which included things like sneak peeks into the books, character art, and more, and it seemed like once again everything was back on track to happen as expected, even if a few months late. Then, on April 29th, 2025, about a month ago, Britt posted another update called "Thank you for your patience, an honest update." In this update, she says, "Hi everyone, I want to start by saying I see you. I hear you. I understand the frustration many of you are feeling, and I want you to know I take it seriously. The past several months have been the most challenging season of my personal life. I feel like a bit of a broken record with this stuff, but where the weeds were high before, I was somewhat still functional. Since January, I have been managing full-time responsibilities at my restaurant, navigating an ongoing divorce, and working through some deeply personal, difficult events that have pulled far more from me than I ever anticipated. I won't go into details here, but I hope you believe me when I tell you what I went through isn't something a person can typically just snap themselves out of. I've taken time to heal and reflect and lift myself to a level of, yeah, this happened to me, it's disgusting, it's traumatizing, but I'm better than that one incident. I'm not sharing this as an excuse, because I believe you deserve more than excuses. I'm sharing it so you know the silence hasn't been out of neglect, but survival. Here's the truth. This project means a tremendous amount to me, and so does your support. I am still fully committed to delivering what I promised." So it sounds like Britt is very unfortunately going through some really difficult times in her personal life, and that sucks. Legitimately, I feel for her. All of 2024 and the first half of 2025 have been some of the most difficult times in my life, financially, health-wise, personally, emotionally, you name it. I completely understand how it can be difficult to keep up with all of your responsibilities when you're going through personal trauma that's happening beyond your control. But this is also why we don't launch Kickstarters for books that we haven't written yet. This update continues with Britt outlining how she plans to move forward with fulfilling orders and keeping her audience in the loop. She says, "Going forward, I will be posting bi-weekly updates, even short ones, and I even set timers on my phone calendar to keep me accountable, to keep you informed and to rebuild the trust that matters so much to me. I'm currently stabilizing my personal life in ways that will allow me to move the project across the finish line in the right way, not rushed, not compromised. I deeply appreciate the patience many of you have shown, and I also understand the disappointment. All I can ask is for continued grace as I work to bring this project to life in the way it deserves, and to honor the trust you placed in me when you chose to back it. Thank you again for believing in me and in this work. I've been working on character arcs for the remainder of the story and how those will come full circle by the end. I'm so excited to share this book with you and to deliver the most kick-ass finished product anyone has ever seen." Okay, girl, you're still figuring out the character arcs? That's what you do during the outline, not a year after the book was supposed to be in your customer's hands. Then her update post includes an excerpt from the book, a very short excerpt. It's 228 words long to be exact. My script for this video is 36.4 times longer than that sneak peek. This time around, the audience was finally starting to get less supportive. They were losing their patience, and in my opinion, rightfully so. The post included comments that said things like, "I've been so patient and not said much, but I would like a refund. This book is not worth the constant 'are we going to hear from you' nonsense. I no longer care about your personal issues. I don't care how close or far the book is to completion. I just want my money back and to never hear or read your name again. At this point, I don't want the book. I just want a refund like I've been asking for months." And my favorite comments of all, the one with so much insight that I really hope Britt actually reads this one all the way through and takes it to heart. Britt, I'm sorry to hear about your personal troubles, but I think you're missing the point here. By selling a product, whether it was finished or not, you engaged in a business venture with us, your customers. As a business owner myself, I'll tell you that the most valuable capital you have as a business owner is your reputation. You've done severe, possibly irreparable damage to that reputation by going radio silent for so long, and then completely ignoring your customers' valid concerns while you have popped back in. You stated in your update that you want to rebuild the trust you lost, but I've seen nothing from you in the past week that shows you're taking any steps to effectuate that. You could have responded to the posts here, but you've gone radio silent again. I'll be watching to see if you actually do post another update in a week, but to be honest, I don't care about a status update very much. Personally, I'm more interested in seeing you take some accountability and address the very legitimate concerns in the posts here. What are your plans with the tariffs? Have you contacted the artists? Is the money from this Kickstarter in an escrow account somewhere, or did you spend it? If you spent it, how do you plan to recoup the funds to fulfill the orders? If you really want to rebuild our trust, start by answering some questions and being honest about your business decisions. I could not agree more with that comment. Even if Kickstarter's terms of service allow a creator to abandon the project without any legal recourse, to do so would still damage your trust with your customers, which is the most valuable resource that any creator has. Just a few days ago, on May 14th, 2025, Britt posted another update, this one called The Truth, the Work, and What to Expect. And it's the update that's been kind of going viral, or at least blowing up in the book talk and book threads communities. It's the update where finally the overwhelming majority of comments had run out of grace to give to Britt. The majority of people are done being patient. Over the past 18 months, I've been navigating a massive personal and emotional upheaval, ending a marriage, rebuilding my home life, co-parenting, and keeping 2 businesses afloat while managing every single emotion under the sun, but largely burnout, emotional and creative burnout. I convinced myself that anything short of perfection would make me a failure, so when I started falling behind, I isolated. I felt like I was failing not just faceless readers, human beings who support me, who love my work, who believed in this project so much that they came together and showed me just how much, to the tune of $95,000. How do you tell 800 plus people week to week that there's nothing new to report? I've seen the things people are saying. Calling me a POS? Well, sorry, but there isn't a thing I've read that I haven't already told myself as this has gone on. And that was the problem. My internal monologue got so dark and twisted at times that I became my own worst enemy. That was my mistake, not keeping you informed. Even in the hard moments was where I went wrong. But I want to be very clear. This project has never been abandoned. I've never stopped working on the book, and I have every intention of fulfilling what I promised. The book is still being written. It's evolving into something richer, deeper, and more emotionally honest than I originally imagined, but that growth took time. Physical rewards are still planned and budgeted for. Production timelines will follow the final manuscript. Britt, what do you mean the story is evolving? The time for evolving was 2 years ago. The story should be done. This is the second video I made this month about someone who's giving off big James Somerton vibes. Remember when James Somerton needed only $3,000 on Kickstarter to make a short film, but then once he made 10 times that, he decided that the project could develop and evolve into a feature film instead, one that he never actually had the budget, time, or commitment to finish? People paid for the book that you promised them. They didn't pay to have to wait 2 years to get a different version that is richer, deeper, and more emotionally honest than you ever imagined, but may or may not actually end up in their mailbox or ever in their possession. You know the saying, done is better than perfect? I live my life by that slogan. And that's not to say that I don't care about the quality of my work, because I do very much, just that I know that it needs to go out into the world in a timely manner. I'm not a perfectionist when it comes to my writing. I'm not a perfectionist when it comes to my YouTube channel. I'm not a perfectionist when it comes to anything. Because if you're constantly agonizing over how to make something better, you will never actually release it. And I'd rather release dozens of books that are entertaining than release one book that's an earth-shattering great American novel that breaks our generation's collective consciousness and have that be the only thing I ever put out into the world. But I guess Britt thinks readers need this new, evolved, deeper, more emotionally honest, vulnerable book instead of, just the book that they ordered. In this update, Britt addresses the candle add-ons. Remember how after she blew past her funding goal due to having the trust of hundreds of readers, she then offered candles that you could get for an additional $35, which people also paid for. Yeah, those are no more. Brightside Candles recently stepped away due to social media backlash, but cited not being aware that the book wasn't finished. I don't understand how that is even possible. All of that information has been clearly outlined and publicly available since the launch of the campaign. I am disappointed that Ariba has backed out, and for those who did add on a candle, I'm exploring other options for that. Hopefully I'll have something more concrete in a couple weeks for my next update. I can absolutely understand how it's possible that they didn't know the book wasn't finished. Yes, the campaign does say you're finishing the book, but it's starting to feel like you never actually started writing it. The way you phrased the original campaign makes it sound like you were, finishing the book, not just starting to write it. Those are very different stages of the writing process, and I'm starting to think that you intentionally misled your audience on this one. After getting mad at her audience for being too mean, Britt then goes on to promise us that she's definitely going to finish the book, but that if she doesn't, she will refund everyone, but that she definitely is going to finish it. To everyone still here, thank you. Thank you for your patience, your belief in me, and even your frustration. It means you care. I know this has gone far off course, but I'm still here, and I'm still building something that matters. This book will be delivered. This project will be completed. I do want to add that if I ever, for whatever reason, for reasons I can't even fathom, decide that this project will not be completed, you will be the first to know, and you will all be refunded. I'd like to put that narrative to rest right now. I am honestly tired and offended at the insinuation. You're offended at what insinuation? That you scammed people out of money? I don't really care if you're offended. Hundreds of readers are offended at the fact that they gave you upwards of 3 figures of their hard-earned money and still have nothing to show for it. She then gets mad because people have been calling her a piece of shit on social media, and that nearly did me in being called a POS. Is a point of sale the worst thing someone's ever called you, Britt, really? She then ends the update with the following melodramatic closer. Because I've walked through fire, I've been reduced to nothing but ashes, but I'm rising up. It's going to be beautiful and empowering. Alright, thanks Phoenix Wrong. The comments were not buying it. Just a rehash of the same tired excuses. Was this just an issue of the book being delayed? I could extend my sympathies, but running this campaign, accepting money, and not being transparent about how much you'd actually written is the problem, and my sympathy and patience has expired. Life sucks for all of us. Your woes don't negate ours. Show us the money, prove that it has not been mismanaged and used somewhere else, address our concerns about how rising costs will affect the project's completion. Even then, you have lost my trust and confidence. I don't even want the book anymore, and do not intend to ever read or listen to your books again. You'll continue to bury your head in the sand and refuse to read or address these comments, but this must all be said. More backers are upset than supportive at this point. Yes, you have your stands, but how much longer will they offer their blind support before they too are fed up? She said, if you're still here, then thank you, it means you care. No, it means you're holding us hostage by not refunding those of us who want a refund. Brightside was right to distance themselves from you. I don't know who would trust working with you after no responses, refunds, or basic respect for your readers and what they're going through. We all struggle. You're not special, and it's insanely rude to not consider all of what your readers are going through. Just be accountable and refund those who want refunds. You refusing to do this very much seems like the funds have been already spent elsewhere. We are tired. Many of us don't even want the book anymore. Do what's right. I no longer consent to being on the receiving end of your mental health updates. We are all going through it. This is a tough time, and to be frank, your struggles do not make you special. In the last year, I also went through a horrific divorce and had to completely start my life over and grieve the loss of a parent, but I did not hold 800 plus people captive and force them to watch. I don't want to be here. I don't want your books. I don't want to hear about your life. I used to be a huge fan, and at this point, if I ever get this book, I'd throw it away because of the sheer amount of negative feelings I have. I understand how supply and demand works. These aren't going to be worth anything on BST groups when the market floods with people trying to get these out of their homes. There's no option to recoup cost once they are in our hands. You've alienated a significant percentage of your audience. Issue refunds and start over if the money is still there. If not, be honest so we can start the healing process of being grifted by someone we used to respect. Stop holding people prisoner who, and I cannot stress this enough, do not give a single shit about your book anymore. Some commenters were also annoyed that Britt seemed to be blaming Brightside Candles for backing out of the project. Well, as it turns out, Brightside Candles has their own side to the story, and it wasn't because they didn't know the book wasn't finished yet. They stepped away from the project because, surprise, get this, Britt never paid them. As they explain on Threads, we recently become aware that the Kickstarter campaign launched by Britt Andrews in 2023, which included the Brightside Candles as an add-on tier, has not been fulfilled. Like many of you, we were excited to support this project and looked forward to contributing something special to the experience. However, we want to clarify a few important details. We were never provided product details, shipping lists, or compensation to begin production. No candles were ever made or delivered by us for the campaign. We, like many of you, pledged in good faith and hoped this would be a positive collaboration. Our hearts go out to everyone who supported this campaign and has been left with unanswered questions. We completely understand the frustration and disappointment. Many of us are readers and small business owners ourselves, and we take these matters seriously. At this time, we are officially and fully removing ourselves from this campaign and its creator. Should the project ever move forward in the future, the Brightside Candles will not be participating in any capacity. Thank you to those who have reached out with support and questions. Transparency and trust are core to our values, and we remain committed to earning that with every product we do create. As the pieces of the story began to come together, and as Britt's excuses began to unravel further, more people online began looking into the situation. One of these people was Crystal Lee, who runs the book talk account Lee Loves Books, which I've linked below. Crystal made a series of TikToks where she revealed that through researching Britt Andrews, she learned that this Kickstarter wasn't even her first time not delivering on her promises to readers. Kickstarters.
Because I went back to the Kickstarter and started reading some of the comments about this. Apparently she's been banned from Beventi, which is becoming a more popular way of having pre-orders for like signings. So she's somehow, some way signing up to go to these signings, creating a pre-order, not attending the signings. As I mentioned before with Kickstarter, once the funding period has ended, you can't like reopen it, but you could relaunch a new one. She has not done that, but I got my hands on the drop form. I was able to get my hands on the drop form, and there are products ranging from $6 to $200, including still the candle, even though Brightside Candles have since then distanced themselves from this project. I was able to do a test buy as if I was gonna check out. I checked out like 3 random different items on there. My total I think came up to like almost $200, and it was gonna let me check out using Apple Pay.
Wait. There's a form to order these special editions in Britt's Facebook group, but I thought it was a Kickstarter exclusive. Britt only mentioned that it was exclusive to Kickstarter about 69,420 times on her original Kickstarter page. That was the whole appeal. There would be no other way to get this special edition if you didn't pledge to this Kickstarter during that exact month. So it turns out that this is a pattern of behavior for Britt, and it's also documented right here by her readers' complaints on Reddit. On a thread called Britt Andrews Kickstarter Scandal, here's what the comments have to say. No joke, I won a giveaway on her Facebook page years ago and got the runaround over and over again till almost 3 months down the road I get cussed out by not only her friend, but her and her mod for daring to question them. I instantly stopped being a fan, canceled any pre-orders, and made sure to tell my book groups her attitude. Doesn't surprise me that she is still pulling this type of BS. I was one of very few backers who got a refund last year. It is horrible what she has done to her fans who have supported her for years. And it isn't just the Kickstarter. Regular book orders she hasn't even sent to people for books that actually were written already. She also has an active form in her group still taking additional orders for the Kickstarter stuff, so it's even more than the $95K we know about from Kickstarter. I'm low-key livid about it, and I bought one of the smaller tiers. She has a clear pattern, basically ghosts the Kickstarter and all of her social media for months, pop up with an update that things are hard and she's working on it, sit back and watches her fans tear anyone up who speaks up. Rinse and repeat. It's this Kickstarter, a special edition Emerald Lakes, and pre-order signed books that were for a book con. Maybe other things too. And remember how in the first TikTok I played from Crystal Lee, she mentioned that Britt has been banned from an author signing platform for repeatedly failing to show up to conventions where her fans are expecting her? We see a similar story in these Reddit comments. She's also known for signing up for conventions, getting pre-orders, and either canceling last minute or not showing up. She's banned from Beventi due to this. There's many readers with receipts on threads that are missing convention pre-orders from as early/late as late 2022 or all of 2023. Many readers on threads are also mentioning about special editions of her complete series that was never delivered. She keeps selling themed candles on her website by a company who publicly states on threads that the author only reached out to them and never signed a contract, gone through the product making process, or made a deposit so that they have nothing to do with her, and yet some readers are mistakenly bad rating them for Britt's actions and calling them scammers. She keeps saying that they've shipped, they haven't, and the readers never received a tracking number. Also, kind of fishy, she opened a restaurant 2 weeks after her Kickstarter closed and have been spamming about restaurant life for the last 2+ years. I was at a signing last month that she was supposed to attend. I knew about the Kickstarter issues and figured she wouldn't show. I was right. Empty chair at the panel, empty table at the signing, and no communication with organizers or readers. Actually just embarrassing. I went to go check Britt Andrews' website, the one on her Linktree page in her Instagram, and it leads me to an error page telling me the connection may not be secure, so I hope I don't get 400,000 viruses like StrongBad just from trying to fact check this. This situation is so heartbreaking, and beyond that, it's infuriating. I've also linked below a smaller booktube channel called Book Lover Laura, who also covered this situation a few days before I did, and she did a really good job going over everything in detail, so I wanted to shout out her video as well. Go give the online book community some love, because we are all going through it here lately, okay? Like last week's video about the A Million Lives Book Festival, this one also leaves me wondering whether this was an intentional scam or an honest mistake that got so far out of control that it spiraled into a dishonest mistake. But I really have a hard time taking Britt in good faith here. She's a well-established author whose previous books sold 50,000 copies. That is huge. She has experience, and considering this isn't her first time failing to deliver on what her customers ordered, I think it's more than fair to never trust her again. Having your readers readers' trust is the most valuable asset to any author, and the way she's just thrown it away is baffling to me. I'd like to know all your thoughts on this in the comments below as well. This video was not sponsored, as you probably noticed, and as I mentioned earlier, I have been an avid user of Kickstarter in the past to start up my own small business, Forever Home Friends, so I figured I'd take the last minute or two of the video just to remind you all that for the rest of the month of May, all orders of a book and plushie combo on foreverhomefriends.com will come with a free friendship charm bracelet handmade by me. 10% of profits from all Forever Home Friends sales benefit Chicago area animal shelters, and because this is my last year running Forever Home Friends, when we sell out of plushie stock, they'll be gone for good. We're not restocking. Thank you so much to everyone who has supported me and my work, especially on Kickstarter 8 years ago when I had no following yet. I'm glad I was able to deliver on the promise of, you know, giving you the products you paid for. I thought that was the baseline default, but I guess not. Let me know your thoughts on all this. I will see you guys again next week for more videos, but in the meantime, have a great weekend. Bye!
Get you some nuts.
Yeah, you effin'.
Up yours, woke moralist. We'll see who cancels who.